And Kate's going to have to give us the 5-minute alarm, 2-minute alarm, because when we were preparing for this, Rick said talking about workforce development, education alignment, in 40 minutes is like stuffing 20 pounds of flour in a 10-pound sack, or something like that. He's a farmer, and he says it way cooler than I could, but we'll try to keep on pace today. Thank you guys for coming out, for your attendance, and for our panelists again. Thank you for your willingness to be engaged. My name is Hockett. I'm the director of Talent Ready Utah, and really just excited to be moderating this panel. Have some amazing leadership and innovators throughout the state on this panel today, from state government to higher education to some of our private sector partners. So, but before we get into the heart of what we're talking about today in our panel discussion, which is really talking about the importance of collaboration. And it seems like that's a recurring theme, as you guys have heard from some of our earlier speakers as well. But the importance of collaboration as we work together with state agencies, higher education, secondary education, and with our industry partners to really seek out alignment in terms of workforce and education. But before we get to that, I'd love to just have our panelists introduce each other, not each other, but introduce yourselves. That may be funner to introduce each other. But introduce yourself and your role in the organization you represent.
Ben Hart, I am the Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
I'm Clive. I'm the Chief People Officer at Pluralsight. For those who don't know Pluralsight, Pluralsight is one of our local technology companies homegrown here on the Wasatch Front. I have hired a lot of talent here in the state of Utah. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today.
I'm Rick Bullion, the Associate Vice President for Workforce and Economic Development at Salt Lake Community College.
I'm Katelin Roberts, the Executive Director of BioHive. We're the industry hub for life sciences and healthcare innovation.
Dave Woolstenhulme, Commissioner of Higher Education, that includes the technical colleges and the degree granting institutions just 2 years ago. So we're happy to jump into this discussion.
I guess I could have been a white and just walk across the stage with the microphone. I might even do that. Hey, so what we're going to do is we have 4 questions kind of lined out. The first and fourth are going to be the same for each one of our panelists, and the ones in between are more on an individual basis on different initiatives they're working on. So the first one, we just want to kind of kick off the topic. And we'll kind of go in order here, the same as we did in introductions, but I'd really like for each of you to discuss your different viewpoints on this importance of collaboration and how we can better work together as state agencies, education partners in the private sector to really align workforce and education. And what are some of your roles in strengthening these partnerships and creating solutions for workforce? Ben.
Well, I'll try and keep my answer short because I am the least interesting person on this panel, including our moderator. Being up here with the commissioner, with Rick, with Katelin, with Will, with Vic is really an amazing opportunity. And so our role in all of this is just how do we help bring industry to the education table in a really efficient way. And I think if I were to ask this audience, how many of you are having trouble finding the right talent? Probably, regardless of your organization, regardless of your background, everyone would raise their hands. And to one degree or another, trying to find the right talent, particularly right now, can be really difficult. And it seems like at any time, regardless of whether it's 2.1% unemployment or 5%. So we've been engaged and we've been at the table with Commissioner Woolstenhulme, a lot of the tech colleges, a lot of the higher education institutions, and trying to help create these partnerships with business. I'll admit, we really started this out trying to find solutions for businesses, but as we got in and we saw what our tech colleges are doing, what our higher education institutions are doing, we were amazed at what happened when industry and education comes together and finds really meaningful partnerships. I would say this, the past 10 years as I've been working kind of in this field has really been a life-changing event for me because we see kids that they don't understand why math is important, history is important, whatever it is, until they see why it's a relevant skill in the marketplace. When we can help teachers extend the classroom into, you know, the shop floor or the boardroom or whatever it may be, they really begin to understand why their education is relevant. And so I think this is something that we've been trying to work on for the past several years now, but I just get to be one person in this, and that's my perspective. And really, I just get to sit at the table with amazing industry partners, businesses, education partners, and just try and help create meaningful partnerships.
So my perspective on this is that in this country, we've got, I think, almost 12 million unfilled jobs at the moment. And there are a variety of reasons why those jobs are sitting unfilled. But one of the big drivers that I deal with day in and day out is the tech skills gap. And that tech skills gap is preventing many of our businesses from being able to have the success and serve their customers the way that they would like to. And unfortunately, as an institution that hires a lot of talent from the state of Utah, you know, we struggle in finding students coming out of our institutions of higher education that are equipped with the skills that they need to immediately plug in to those tech roles and start adding value. And so solving this issue is going to be a tremendous benefit to both industry as well as to the individuals themselves that are being educated here in the state of Utah. And neither party, I believe, can solve the issue themselves. Pluralsight is interesting for those who don't know the business. What we do is we are a tech education platform. And so we work with many of the biggest companies out there, Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, and help them equip their employees with tech skills. And I can tell all of you that the pace of innovation and the speed with which new skills are evolving in the marketplace is only accelerating. And so if we don't collaborate together, we're not going to be able to close the gap. So it's a topic that I'm passionate about.
Thanks, Will. Collaboration really is the secret sauce. I'm fortunate I serve on a couple of national workforce boards, and we host meetings from across the country. And when they hear about how we work with our legislature, how we work with our governor's office, our higher education institutions, and most importantly, our industry partners, that's really where we're going to solve this conundrum. I mean, there's lots of data, and you've heard data already this morning, but in order to have a chance to have a skilled workforce that is meaningful and a truly value add to a company, we have to work together, whether it's through funding, whether it's through curriculum and design of a program, and then ultimately the delivery of that program, as we do at Salt Lake Community College and our partners around the state in the Utah system of higher ed, but also the willful intent to do that. And the number one thing that we have to do as an institution is listen. Because when we get to industry, the last thing I want to do is come to Will, who's dealing on the front edge of technology, and say, hey, we've got a great program for you, I hope you like it, rather than knocking on the door saying, how can we help? And what is it that you are missing? And so the collaboration, I think the willful intent, Utah has it, but 2% unemployment, we've got a little work to do.
So Vic asked for our perspective, so I'm going to give you two strong perspectives. One, Ben is an absolute sandbagger. He is not boring, and he was, Talent Ready Utah was his brainchild, and Vic will talk more about that. So, wrong, total sandbagger. Two, you all are totally in the right breakout session. This is the most important topic we could be talking about. We've talked about water, housing, all the challenges that we are going to face in the future for Utah. It is all going to come back to how we can innovate, how we can collaborate, work together. We've talked about passion, collaboration, innovation, all these things. We can't do any of those things if we don't have a talented workforce. So it all comes back to this issue, in my opinion, another strong opinion. But then if we look at the stakeholders that you have to bring to the table in order to make this actually work, I think that Vic has done a wonderful job. I think I'm just up here for my opinions and passion on the subject, but you have government, and government can incentivize through its policy where businesses set up, how they want to either move into a state, move out of the state, expand within a state through regulatory policy and incentives. You have education, and education through education policy can influence whether a worker is going to be prepared when they go into the workforce and how productive they are. And then on the industry side, you have to have an aligned and incentives really together between all parties. So I think that the Venn diagram between those three entities of government, education, and industry have to work together really closely in order for us to be prepared now, where we're already feeling the challenge of our growth, and for the future, because we're outpacing our need in workforce. And I love the commissioner's going to talk more about, we have to really expand what education means beyond just a 4-year degree. So I'm going to stop before I really start getting wrapped up here.
We should just let her keep going, because the conversation that we're having today is one that's 20 years past due. To be honest with you, we as education need to own it, and we need to pivot. And we're in a place and opportunity right now to where, in my opinion, and I probably have a few that would disagree with me in our institutions, but if we don't pivot, education is going to become less and less relevant for the economy as we move forward. The good thing is we have a state board that is behind that, that is going to require that we really start to think about how we are educating our students. The thing that keeps me awake at night and what we'll talk about with all the jobs that are open. I just attended way too many graduations. You get tired of sitting there. It's cool to see the kids graduate, but I often ask myself as the graduates walk across the stage, are they prepared to jump into a Pluralsight and hit the ground running? Or have we missed an opportunity to help kids be graduating in the field and in an area and prepared to an area to where they can really fill those open jobs? And to me, that's the work that we've got to do. And to me, it's going to take industry having to come to the table and actually put pressure on us, and I love it when they do. I have people come to my office all the time with the industry and say, oh, I'm like, do not be sorry. This is exactly what we need, is industry at the table helping us pivot. Education's been around a long, long, long time, and we are creatures of habit, right? And so it's a big shift to be able to really start to listen to industry, really start to redevelop our programs, and really start to hit the mark with what industry needs. We're committed, we're there, and our presidents are committed. We are doing a great job, and I don't want anybody to think that I don't think higher education is doing a fabulous job, but I just think we're at a point in time to where we have to pivot. We have to figure out what it is that industry needs, and then change programs, eliminate some programs. Nobody walks in our front door with a tuition check just to become a better person. They walk through the front door, and I'll always say that they do become a better person through the process, but at the end of the day, they want a meaningful career, right? I mean, how many of you went to school to become a better person and to serve society better, and all those byproducts we've always talked about in education, which are all true, but every kid that goes to school and every adult that goes to school wants a better career. And if we're not providing what they need to have that career, then we need to rethink what we're doing, and we're committed to doing that.
Let me meet you halfway now. Dave, if you don't mind, I'd love to have a follow-up question on that one too. So in 2020, the tech college system in the state merged with the degree granting institutions and into one system, under one umbrella, one commissioner, one board. How has merging these two systems of higher education been beneficial as you as our leader in higher ed has really looked at aligning workforce and education?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's been a really great 2 years as this two systems have come together. As you know, we used to have a tech college system and a degree granting institution. Well, for way too many years, we as society has always pushed our students which direction. Or your degree, or you're not going to be successful, or it's less meaningful. By bringing the two systems together, it's really given us an opportunity to look at what it is that workforce needs, and then elevate technical education in a way that's never been elevated. And the way that we're trying to do that is nobody wants to go into a program that they may think is a dead end, right? That, hey, I'm gonna get a certificate, I'm gonna go weld, which is a great career, but what am I gonna do when I'm 50, when I'm having a hard time walking? What am I gonna do when I wanna start my own business? So we really started to create some pathways that allow students to start at a tech college, get that meaningful career, get started. They may be happy right there in automotive, whether it's welding, whether it's aerospace or whatever, and they may stay there and have a great career. There's some fabulous careers there. But if a student wants to continue on, they should have that opportunity, right? They should have that opportunity without starting over. And so we're creating pathways to where the tech credit they earn can be then employed into bachelor's degrees, they can move into management and so forth. What we're finding working with industry is a lot of times industry will come to the table and pay for that next step because they do want those individuals to move along. So it's really been a great thing, and I think what it's really done is to elevate the technical education as a meaningful career path and not always be steering the students to a four-year degree. Our completion rate in the state of Utah, I'm going to give you way too much dirt, and I apologize, is not great. And when I look at that, the reason why I think it's not great in some of our four-year programs, the students didn't want to be there in the first place. They would rather have been the welder. They would rather have been the diesel mechanic. They would rather have been working with their hands and engaged in a different way. We require them, because you're not going to be successful by going this route, what do? They get bored, they drop out, right? Or even with what Pluralsight's saying, can we start them earlier in the coding? Can we start them earlier in a career field which they really love? So, Victor, to answer your question, I could go on forever and I'll be quiet. But it's really been an advantage to start to celebrate all the different career paths that a student has.
Is this awkward when I walk out? Just for me, as the owner. Ben, I want to ask you a question. Let's get it awkward for you then. So Ben, you've been in workforce development for the better part of a decade, right? So a lot of your time in the Department of Workforce Services, and then as our Deputy Director of GOED Utah, as Katelin mentioned, Talent Ready Utah was one of your visions, right? It really came to fruition under your vision and others. Could you maybe talk to us just for a minute about why? The why behind Talent Ready Utah, why were we created, and what was that catalyst? What really made this whole thing happen in the first place?
Well, it's a really complex problem to try and wrap your head around. And, you know, Commissioner Woolstenhulme, I think 10 years ago now, was probably up at the Uinta Basin ATC maybe. And so when we talk about how fortunate we are to have a leader who's got just an incredible vision, Commissioner Woolstenhulme, listening to him talk and understand kind of where he wants to take higher education is so awesome. You're not going to hear that from any other higher education lead across the country. Commissioner Woolstenhulme is amazing, and we're fortunate to have him. The other part of this was I was working at the Department of Workforce Services under the amazing leadership of John Pierpont and Casey Cameron, and the notion there became, and I do want to recognize Lisa Stark, our Commissioner for Apprenticeships now as well, is in the audience as well, but we realized that workforce, if we were going to see our economy continue to expand the way that we wanted to, what we had to do was to create a robust talent pipeline. And we looked, and there was this rock star down at Dixie Applied Tech College at the time, Vic Hockett, and what he was doing to meet industry demand was amazing. And we saw the entire economy and businesses down there that were able to flourish because he was able to provide this talent pipeline. And so my whole career is built on incentives. I joke that I've made corporate welfare into a profession over the last 15, 16 years. But a lot of that comes back to what is it that government can do, to what Katelin was saying, that is really most efficient for businesses. And we realized it wasn't always going to be about incentives, but it was more and more becoming about talent. And how do we help create those partnerships? And sitting here in 2022, I would argue that talent has far surpassed anything else that a government can do to help support the economy. It's more important than any incentive we can put on the table, and I believe this, it's actually more important even than infrastructure and transportation now. Workforce is head and shoulders the most important thing you can do to help businesses to continue to expand. And so I realized there were good people that were going to continue this conversation. We kind of had to start the conversation to change that mindset and realize that it's not just, hey, we're going to have to stay in our own little silos, but we were going to have to work together and really be collaborative if we were going to really find meaningful solutions. And so we started out with trying to support Davis Tech, Salt Lake Community College, Rick Bullion, what he was doing amazing stuff at Salt Lake Community College, to create these pathways. And really, the education partners did a lot of the work, the industry partners did a lot of the work. One of our initial programs was with Boeing, with Northrop Grumman. They were at the table. Then it was Orbital ATK. But we found that we were able to create these meaningful pathways, and as a result, businesses were able to flourish. That was cool, but seeing students, we had students that were autistic, we had students that did not want anything to do with these types of careers. When they came in and they were able to generate a paradigm for what these jobs actually meant, then it changed their lives as well. And we realized if we can start something here that will hopefully help everyone understand just how important this is. And the commissioner has said it, the governor has said it, one of the most important things that our education system can do is help our students get ready to be successful and to have economic opportunity. And so the more we can just try and help that conversation along, and I think that's what has been at the heart of what we've been trying to do the last decade, the more successful ultimately we can be. And so it's not one person, it's been a lot of people over the years, but we've got the right people now in the right places that I think this conversation, you're going to see Utah lead out on this topic in a very innovative way. I think we're going to be leading the country in terms of these partnerships and what they mean, because I think everyone's starting to get that vision and move in the same direction.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Great comments there. Something you were talking about too was meaningful and impactful, opportunities for business working with education, with state agencies. Well, I want to just ask you, in those regards, what are some of these impactful opportunities that exist as private sector companies really engage with and work with their higher education partners?
Yeah, so I would say there's more opportunity out there right now than there is talent to fill those spots. And particularly for technical roles, the sad truth of the matter is for companies like Pluralsight, we have had so many technical job openings over the course of the last few years that we have tried to fill in the state of Utah and have not been able to fill those openings that we have had to look outside of the state. And we have broadened our talent acquisition strategy. And we would love to hire talent, homegrown talent here in Utah, and we would love to have them come into our offices down in Draper, but we can't find enough good talent with the hard technical skills. In particular, where we see the biggest gaps are things like software engineering, cybersecurity, data analytics, data science, DevOps. Like these are the technical skills that we just can't find coming out of the higher education system in the volume that we need here in the state of Utah.
Thank you. I'd like to turn some attention to Rick, if that's okay. So it is okay, good. So in your day-to-day, what you do at Salt Lake Community College is just amazing. And really, every day you have the opportunity to align education with workforce. How important is it, and you briefly touched on this earlier, to engage workforce, but also how important is it to be responsive and agile as you're building the programs that you do for workforce?
It's imperative that we have industry at the table, because otherwise we're literally shooting in the dark. So right up front, we have one of our wonderful partners, Lucy Andre and Stadler Rail. I saw Martin Ritter, the CEO of Stadler US. I don't know if he's in here, but he's here at the meetings today. Well, we built, along with Salt Lake City School District, Stadler Rail, and Salt Lake Community College. This is a prime example of Stadler being a Swiss and German company. They have an interest in apprenticeship and the Swiss apprenticeship model. And so that apprenticeship model starts early. I believe it's 15 over there, and you either go apprenticeship track or you go university. Now, granted, if you start one, you can still cross over. It's not, it's not a situation where you're trapped. But when we started having these conversations to fulfill what their wishes were to get a workforce started, we came to the table to look at what are the curricular needs and what are some of the things that we need to produce in order to have this program. We had industry there, and every time we needed to come to the table, Stadler was there. And so later this summer, we're going to have our first set of graduates. It's a 3-year apprenticeship program. So the students that started their senior year in high schools in the Salt Lake School District, This summer, we're going to have some graduates through Salt Lake Community College and an AAS in Advanced Manufacturing. You'll notice that I said AAS in Advanced Manufacturing, not Stop or Rail, because they really are powerful in wanting to make sure that everyone is going to benefit from these apprenticeships and these styles of programs. A little bit later, I think if we have time, I'll talk about some of the other initiatives that have come before the Stop the Rail. But now, Talent Ready Utah, once again, you take a look at best practices and where can we replicate, where can we duplicate, where can we grow. And the success that's been achieved through Stop the Rail and this AAS and Advanced Manufacturing is now looking to go out into other industry sectors. And I see people from a wide variety of industry sectors here. And it's not just advanced manufacturing, it's all across the board. And of course, with Utah being one of the most diverse economies, we have to provide talent all across the board. But we couldn't have had the program. Pete's back there, Jennifer's back there, individuals that were key in building these programs. And we couldn't have built it without the input, without the guidance. So industry has to be at the table if you're going to move forward and assist.
Thank you, Rick, and really appreciate the comments too on the Stopper model and youth apprenticeship. And really want to take that even a further step down. Katelin, I know you've got a lot of passion in terms of pipeline development and the need for continued investment in pipeline development. If you'll just take a minute, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do companies that exist in BioHive and others, how do they continue to invest in pipeline development? And how they go about getting involved, supporting work-based learning, apprenticeship. Okay.
So I'm gonna steal the state energy slogan that they kept saying in the main ballroom with all of the above. We should be applying that to education. I think it starts with the third grade reading level, and I loved hearing Senator Milner talk, and she has been a huge proponent of closing that gap, especially with COVID. So many kids are being left behind, and it's hard to catch up. And if we have kids graduating from high school and they're not fully literate, or if they're not confident in their own abilities to get into that next phase of education, whether it's a trade school, a technical college, a community college, or a four-year university, that's incumbent on us, as a state, to really make sure that we are catching that early. So I think it starts very early, and I think there are lots of ways that industry partners can play a role. And I think Utah is very innovative in that way. So BioHive is, again, this industry cluster. So we have over 1,300 companies in life sciences and healthcare innovation, from startups to very big business units like BD that you've heard about, Stryker, big medical device companies, therapeutics companies like Recursion, you'll hear about later today. So, and Recursion is half scientists, half data scientists. So what's interesting about our industry is it has a lot of manufacturing, tons of manufacturing, but also data scientists. You have a lot of engineers, program managers, everyone in the pipeline. I see a couple folks in the back. So it's a great industry. It's very representative of the diverse economy that we have in this state. And so I love to think about this as just kind of a mirror of what we have. And in terms of ways that industry can participate, because of our tax structure, I think that we have to participate as industry in order to close this gap, and in order to, frankly, if we just sit here and complain about the talent that's not coming to us, then let's go to the talent. They want to see what the opportunities are when they graduate and what it looks like in their career. And then on the very real side of work-based learning, we need to pull those opportunities further up into high school and show these kids, this is what your life could look like when you're in middle school. Or, Commissioner, you're really the one that should be talking about when it's age appropriate, but I'm just saying that we need to tell the story better of these are the careers and opportunities that exist for you, and they exist in Utah. Whenever I meet, whenever we're doing events, and they're in college, I'm always like, what are you studying? Where are you gonna go? Are you gonna stay in Utah? And, you know, if it's a flip of a coin, I'm always trying to recruit them to stay in Utah, because we need that talent here. We need to tell them that this is a great place that they can live. And yes, we have all these problems and challenges that we're trying to fix, but we can't keep the talent here, and it's just gonna make our problems worse. And I think there are some very real and tangible ways that companies can get involved. The new Adopt a School program is a fantastic way for companies to get involved in high schools. We have rural high schools that are dying for industry to get involved. If you're a tech company and you're willing to just spend a little bit of time with some high school students, not only do they need resources, they need mentorship, they need time, they want substitute teachers to teach them basic skills for computer science and computer literacy. I mean, we can make a huge impact as industry in our own talent pipeline that will bring them closer to not only, and then they'll have an affinity for whatever your brand is, whatever your company is. And we can really, I think, impact and change lives for these students. So I think those are a couple ways, but I mean, Vic, I think there are lots of different ways we can get involved. Commissioner, do you have anything to add to that?
Really? No, I think what Katelin just talked about is absolutely critical, and I reflected back while she was talking about 38% of our kids in the state of Utah upon high school graduation within 3 years, because we give them an opportunity, well, many of them serve the church mission. Within 3 years, we have 38% of our kids not going on to any type of higher education, out of state, in-state, tech, whatever it is. Our state's getting more and more diverse, but I'm not so sure we've done a good job in higher education making access, starting, as Katelin said, at a very early age, helping those students understand the opportunities that are there. So if we're really going to address the talent pipeline, I think we're going to have to address our access. And that's something we're very focused on, is helping all diverse populations. We all want more diversity in the workplaces. We all want to be able to have better prepared workers. And part of that, I believe, is going to be having work diversity in our workplaces. And I hear that all the time from industries. The other thing that I did say, our completion rate is not great in the state of Utah, but there's a lot of improvement being made in that area by many of our institutions. And the way they're doing it is to get our students engaged with industry much earlier. What they've identified, how many of you end up taking all your general educations the first year or two of school? About killed you, didn't it? I was one of those. That probably added an additional year to my college career because it's tough. What our institutions are starting to do is getting engaged much earlier with those core major classes, because the kids get connected, they get an opportunity to get out and do an internship or an apprenticeship with the institutions. And so that is, and what we're seeing with that, programs that have adopted that model, their completion rate goes through the roof. It really does. I mean, major points ahead of those that just go through a traditional educational track, because now all of a sudden they're able to apply, right? And the benefit from the industry side, they're cherry picking the very best applicants, right? They're cherry picking the very best students as they go through. So I think Katelin said, well, we've got to start much earlier, and a lot of it's around the access with the diversity of our students and populations that probably haven't had, well, not probably, they haven't had the same access as some of our other students.
I think we're getting close. I have 4 minutes. I don't have 4 minutes, you guys have 4 minutes. So last question, what's something we can do right now? And so when I say we, it's not just, us six on this stage, but everyone in the audience too either works for a state agency or a private sector employer or in higher education. From your perspective, what's something we could be doing right now to help better align workforce and education to help us with these workforce challenges?
Well, the Adopt a School program was talked about, so I would say adopt a school, get involved in education. Is it going to solve your workforce needs in the short term? Maybe not, but it will definitely help in the long term. And I would say this, if your organization is not ready, whatever your organization is, to full on adopt a school, then mentor a student, bring on an intern, that helps. And so I would say get involved.
From my perspective, one of the things that we can start working on now to make an impact is creating a deeper connection, more touch points, and faster cycle time in the feedback loop between industry and institutions of education. In the technology space, when we go build products for our customers, we're talking to our customers all the time. It's a constant dialogue, and every time there's a prototype, we go back to the customer, we test it with them, we get their feedback, and we go iterate again, and we go bring it back to the customer, get their feedback, and iterate again, right? And it's a tight partnership. And that's how ultimately we develop a product that meets the needs of our customers out in the industry. My perspective is that there's probably more that we could be doing from the education and industry side to partner together to have more dialogue and faster feedback loops. And then that would inform the curriculum, the skills that we're equipping these students with, and ultimately would drive better outcomes.
Regardless of where you are in the state of Utah, reach out. If you haven't been contacted by your local institution, whatever that is, reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out. If you don't know who to talk to, call the president, because I guarantee the president will then pass that message along and give it to people like myself. And so make sure that you reach out and ask for help. I think that's really a key. So that starts that conversation, what we talked about earlier. But then the final thing I'll say is it's really a parallel tracks. We've talked a lot about getting students involved in middle school on up, but there's also that adult learner out there that needs that career change, career opportunity, or opportunity to be successful. And so the long game is truly that K-12 student. The short game is getting to the adults and making sure that they feel like they can step onto a college campus, which is, trust me, it's very scary, because if they've been out of high school for 10, 15, 20 years or more, the last thing they feel like they can do is be successful at a college campus. We have programs that we can help those individuals, and those individuals all of a sudden are now on a career path. So it's that parallel tracks. It's the long game and the short game.
I love that you mentioned that. I mean, the Lieutenant Governor's Return to Work workshop program, upskilling. We haven't talked about reskilling workers, bringing people into the workforce that are out of the workforce. I mean, this has forced us to look at places where we traditionally would not look. People who are on the fringes that we want to bring in. I mean, refugees, immigrants, people who are traditionally just not sought after because we're so desperate for work. So I think this is also offering us opportunities, even though we don't like it. But I would say, what is it, the Whitney Houston line, that the children are our future. But we also have, I think there are very tangible ways to get involved. I also think that, what's the other thing I was going to say? Oh, I think that I have young kids. There have been studies that when they are in the workforce, we don't know what the economy will look like. Like 2/3 of the economy, we don't know what jobs will actually exist. We have a leg up in Utah for being innovative, for being flexible. So the conversation we're having now, and having the commissioner is saying, let's pivot to where we can be flexible, we can be nimble, we can set the stage for this innovation and this, having a higher education system that really fits for everyone. So I love that. So I think in the very tangibles, get involved, whether it's with children or whether it's with helping someone get reskilled for the workforce or bringing someone into the workforce. And then on the kind of the future looking, I think that we have to stay innovative as a state for education. And I think that Utah is positioned to do that.
I'm going to save you time so you don't get to lunch. I couldn't say it any better than what Will said. We have to, as an education, listen to our industry partners more, understand what their need is, and move forward. So with that, I'm going to send it back to you, Vic.
Help me just thank our panelists today for the great job they did. Thank you for your attendance. Enjoy the rest of the summit. Just like all of them said, get involved. My email is vhockett@utah.gov. On the website is my cell phone number. I am readily available and willing to talk to anyone on how we can better engage with our industry partners. And again, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the summit.